Hey, good Sunday afternoon to you. I went to a cafe this morning, takeout, of course, takeout coffee with Shmamily. To and On the way, she told me an interesting story. She told me about a friend of hers who had recently shifted to becoming a member of the Republican Party and was now, a registered Republican. This was very, very surprising. This is somebody who, has had a lifelong set of values that would not suggest that, in favor of, I don't know, Waldorf education, vegan, vegetarian diet, hybrid car. So it's not somebody who normally you'd think that way. And the reason that this person had changed political affiliation and is now as a supporter of the Republican Party is to do with vaccines. Because this person, apparently in California, I didn't know this, that vaccines are apparently now mandatory if you go to college, and the people who are most opposing this are Republicans. So therefore, if you don't like vaccines, you need to get with the Republicans. And I realized as I listened to this story that this is actually an example of something that happens a lot. I had to make up a word for it on the spot to try and communicate about it with Shamily. I've called it value clumping, and I wanted to run this idea by you and see what you think. So value clumping means that if you believe strongly enough in this and this and this, you therefore are obliged to go along with other agendas in order to get support for the things you believe in. I've got another friend, actually, somebody I really respect a lot, and she was telling me, I'm kind of staunchly apolitical. I said, oh, that's interesting. She said, yeah, I'm really I'm passionately not Republican and not Democrat. And I asked her a little bit more about that. And she said, well, it's because of values clumping. I don't want to be told that if I feel strongly about this and this, that it ropes me into feeling strongly about other things that maybe I don't choose to feel strongly about. So it led me to thinking, what would happen? This is really utopian, wild, out of the box thing. But what would happen actually? This is like a utopian, Orwellian fantasy, or not Orwellian, he's very negative, but some, tripped out fantasy, more like a Albert Hoffman fantasy maybe. But what would happen if political candidates somehow either didn't or actually weren't allowed to affiliate with a party? Supposing that each candidate just stood on their unique set of values. So every candidate was independent. It is actually feasible, isn't it? You could have the president as independent, and each member of whatever voting body you've got is independent. And so you would vote for people because of the unique value cluster of that individual, not because they subscribe to a collective value cluster. So I was thinking about that, and I thought how much better things might work that way if you didn't think of somebody as Republican or Democrat, but just saw everybody as having their unique set of values. So I was thinking of this for myself, and I wanted to ask you, I was thinking, for example, I really feel strongly about conserving the earth, the resources of the earth. I'd like to see the earth left as untouched as possible. I love to see open meadows, and I don't like to hear about fracking and oil drilling. I'd like us to have a lighter footprint on the earth so there's more sustainable resources for future generations. That generally puts me into a liberal Democrat clumping. But at the same time, I have a strong belief from working with people that everybody is naturally resourceful. Everybody has the ability to create what they want. People faced with adversity, people have the opportunity to rise above their adversity and to actually make something great out of limited resources. Consequently, I'm not really in favor of giving people handouts. I think it's not really respectful to somebody to say, oh, you can't manage, you're the victim of your circumstances, here we'll just give you money because you can't create it on your own. So for example, when it comes to third world countries, I have lived in many third world countries. I don't think it's a great idea to give a third world country money to, and just give them stuff. It's much better to empower the people of a third world country to become self-sufficient and proud of their heritage. So that kind of leaning away from handouts would make me more, you could say, conservative if you wanted to value clump. And then equally, I'll just give you a couple more. I think people deserve maximum freedom and minimum prejudice to be sexual and relational in the way they want. If a woman wants to go for it with a woman, if a guy wants to make it with a guy, whatever, whatever mix you want. If people want to have multiple partners, I'm in favor of freedom. That would make me more liberal, right? But also, I actually think that conscious entrepreneurship does a better job of creating a better world than government. So I'm very much in favor of supporting entrepreneurs to create private businesses that have social, ethical values. I'm more in favor of that than high taxation. So that makes me more conservative, So you see how if we look at actually, I feel good about this and not on that, I don't fit into a value cluster. And all of this kind of explains a little bit how we got the current president. It was done through value clustering, you see, because he said, okay, he said a few things like, I'm into gun rights. Everybody gets their gun, because he knew that that's a trigger point for a value cluster of people. I'm into gun rights. I'm into being tough on crime. I'm into tough immigration, and therefore he's willing to be insulting and racist about people who are not white. And pro-abortion, although he wobbled on that one, he wasn't always pro-abortion. He came down firmly, anti-abortion, excuse me. He wasn't always anti-abortion. He came down firmly on anti-abortion in order to value cluster. And as a result of this, he created the most unbelievable, unpredictable miracle you could never see coming. He got evangelical Christians to support somebody who was having sex with porn stars fairly blatantly and then paying them off and lying about it. You'd never anticipate that anybody could persuade evangelical Christians to get really gung-ho about somebody like that, or somebody who repeatedly lies or is repeatedly cruel. It's done through value clustering, because they're saying, very right-wing people will say, well, he's got our gun rights, he's got our anti-immigration kind of prejudice, and therefore we'll just turn a blind eye to the rest. Value clustering. So I wanted to ask you, if this touches you at all, when have you found yourself value clustering? When have you gone along with things that you don't particularly care about to preserve things you do? And if you had to create your own personal value cluster that might include certain things that are thought of as right-wing and left-wing, what would your personal private value cluster look like?